Okay, guys, we are back. We have some questions to be asked. So, we got James Stone here. So, what's up with the water bill and how we're going to do stuff with the salmon this year?
Yeah, great question, Jason. So I was looking at some of the comments with you. Some of the people wanted me to talk about water policy and what's going on because it's a political issue, right? We have a lot of people that there's blame game. We have people that say it's the Dems, no, it's the Republicans, or who it isn't. So the truth is that the water policy is basically conflicted by both sides, right? And there's a lot of misinformation out there. So to one of your questioners, he said, hey, I used to watch that guy, he wants to talk about the Trump administration.
Yes.
What did he do to that Trump policy? You're absolutely correct. Trump policy came in, I think that his director that he put in was Rehnquist, and he said that release the water as soon as they get it. They need the water, so they started releasing water, and they released water at a rate that was basically unsustainable for long-term sustainability for species management. Okay, they tried to give water because they were hurting down there, okay? There was people hurting. There was literally no drinking water in some towns down in Southern California. There was a lot of agricultural that was hurt. And so there, 25 million people in Southern California are fighting for the water to get transferred. Remember, people, there's a lot of politics involved, so it can't just be answered in one question here or there.
Yep.
But did the Trump administration release a lot of water? You're right, they did. They released tons of water. The only protections the Trump administration was trying to put into place was ESA-listed species. That was their only focus. Endangered Species Act, that's what ESA stands for. Winter run Chinook salmon, we can't fish for them. Spring run, we can't fish for them. Green sturgeon, we can't fish for them. The only protections the Trump administration put place in for was the species that we can't fish for. So it didn't benefit us. So a lot of people are casting blame. But on the same token, the Biden administration, okay, or previous administrations, Obama administration, what have they done for us? Nothing. They protected the ESA listed species, but they haven't done any advocacy to protections for any of these other species in our waters. And therefore, all governments, state and federal, on both sides, are so conflicted in this water policy, and their pockets are being lined by all of these elected officials. It doesn't matter what side, okay?
Yep.
You have both sides, folks. You have the center of the heart of California's agriculture, primarily Republican, needing water for agriculture. You also have corporate interest, huge billion-dollar companies that have come into California, bought up desert land, and built lots of areas that never had any agriculture before, and they're doing it under huge disguised billion-dollar corporations demanding your water. And that's the water that a lot of people have an issue for, because that water was never allocated through the state water project when we had 18 to 20 million people back in the 60s.
Yep.
Now with 40 million people, the demand is still so much and so great. Therefore, both sides, Dem or Republican or Independent, all of them are advocating to ship water to people because we have not enough supply for the demand that we have. And who loses on the long run? People. But guess who else loses? Our fisheries.
So, about our desert tunnels, is it a good idea or a bad idea?
Okay, so that's a great question. Our organization, from an organization standpoint, is remaining neutral so far on the Delta tunnels because there's a lot of things that we don't know.
Yep.
Personally, James Stone speaking personally, I'm against the Delta tunnel because all it's going to do is create more diversion down in Sacramento that is going to suck out of Sacramento. The reason that Southern California is requesting the Delta tunnel, so that you all understand, is they currently are pumping out of the state and federal pumps out of Tracy, California, Clifton Court, Forbay.
Yeah.
That's where they pump all the water currently south through the channel. And that water can sometimes get brackish from the infiltration of the ocean water coming in under Antioch Bridge. And it pushes south of French Track, and it pushes down that way. Sorry everyone, I'm losing my voice from being at the show all week. But the most important thing to remember is why do they want the tunnel? Because they want that Sacramento sweet water, they call it. They want that Sacramento sweet. That's what they want, because there's no brackish in there. The salinity is low. And so therefore, what ends up happening is they build that tunnel, they divert the Sacramento. That's going to hurt more Sacramento run strains. It's going to hurt the winter run. It'll hurt the spring run. It's going to hurt this fall run that's already depressed and down and out. So water is definitely the issue that is hurting all of our natural species, not just salmon. Now, back as the advocacy of the organization, we are fighting for the advocacy of all of this, and we are aware of these things. There's a lot of things and suggestions that people have pushed out. I mean, look at some of these other suggestions. Raise Shasta Dam. Pros and cons to that. Sites Reservoir, voted in 10 years ago. We still haven't built sites. Pros and cons to that. Where are the cons? If the water coming back in from sites is hot, that's going to damage a lot of runs. If it's cold, it could benefit, right? But there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around a lot of these things that are being implemented, and a lot of politics and policy that have not been transparent throughout the process. And still, the red tape, the regulations are there to the point to where there's nothing being done, right? And so therefore, what ends up happening is that politicians make promises, like Trump made promises to Kevin McCarthy and all of his people, that if you put me in the White House and you support me, I will send water from Shasta down to you, which he could do. But let's be honest, the Sacramento River on Shasta is managed by the federal government through the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. But Orville, it is managed by the state government. That's the state water project under Gavin Newsom. So anything that happens in Orville is run by Gavin Newsom. So it doesn't, that's why I'm saying, you guys, stop making this a red and blue issue. This is an everyone issue. This is all sides are dumping our water and not protecting our species. We have to form unity. We have to fight together. We have to advocate for water policy, but we need to make sure, on a grander note, that we're not casting blame at one person or another, and bring everyone together to the understanding that fish need water. They need water when the juveniles are exiting and leaving our rivers and getting out to the ocean, and they need water when they're coming back. If we don't respect that as human beings, on a whole, on a macro level, we're going to lose fishing in California, in the California Delta Bay, and in all of our river systems.